Red Queen, Book 1 in the Red Queen series by Victoria Aveyard, published in 2015. This is both a spoiler and a non-spoiler review, but I won't talk about any spoilers until the countdown clock reaches 0, and I've given my rating for the title. The book is about Mare Barrow, a young girl who steals things for a living. Sort of. Have I sold you on it yet? Anyway, if you've read Cinder, this novel is similar. It's a fairy tale. Mare is unremarkable in basically every way. She has nothing going for her, yet she somehow manages to escape her circumstances and become something more. In that way, I suppose you can also say it's like Twilight, but Mare is a more proactive character, and she does have an arc. She purposely moves the story forward instead of simply being pulled along by it. Now that I think about it, this book, it reminds me of a lot of novels, not only Cinder and Twilight, but Red Rising and The Hunger Games as well. It's a tricky line to walk, too many familiar elements and a story starts to feel stale. On the flip side, originality for originality's sake can be just as distracting. Red Queen, it does a decent job of throwing in enough unique elements to keep things rolling. The broader conflict isn't as simple as I originally feared. There are layers. The writing flows as well, at times a little too poetic for my liking, but hey, Mare is a teenage girl. That's how they think, right? Yeah, as an adult male, I can only say that, from my perspective, I bought the internal dialogue. I also thought the action was handled well. All the abilities we see, they make the fight scenes fun, as long as I didn't think too much about them. A lot of really odd strategic choices in that final confrontation, given how much characters train. Speaking of the ending, in as vague a terms as possible, it ends on a high note. One of those teaser type endings that tries to convince you to read the next book in the series and gave me hope that the sequel can improve on the original. And the two princes, I found them to be quite interesting characters. They're both conflicted, they look at the bigger picture, they've experienced the broader world, and they seem to be good people. That's a rarity in this novel. Which brings me to my first of many negatives. Mare herself. She's not likable. She steals from the poor in order to provide for her family, but they don't want to come by goods in such a dishonest way, and she steals with no real shame or remorse. Early on, she meets a stranger at a bar who gives her money after she tries to steal it from him, and for some strange reason, her initial reaction is to reject it. She doesn't want handouts from people who can and are willing to give them, apparently. This is a common characteristic of Mare. Someone says or does something nice to her, and she responds with condescending or snide remarks. When you've got a main character this unlikable, it's hard to buy into anyone caring about them. She's also self-described as not very smart and lacking the talent for any kind of apprenticeship. In another book, that might not bother me, it might even be beneficial, but given the consequences, i.e. military conscription, I wanted to see her try to succeed. She claims to want to avoid the service and to help her family, but that never quite rang true for me. She's accepted that she's a failure. There's nothing about Mare to like or pity, so why do people keep helping her? Why do they like her? Then again, most of the characters can be temperamental and short-sighted, so maybe that's just a common quality in this alternate post-apocalyptic world. Caloran's outburst in a later scene is equally absurd. In conclusion, Red Queen is not worth reading. The action sequences aren't bad, but when the story slows to focus on characters, it really falls flat. Read Cinder or Red Rising instead of this 2 out of 5 star cheap imitation. But that's just my opinion. This book, it won the 2015 Goodreads Choice Award, and it's got 300,000 ratings for an average of 4.08 stars on the site. So maybe I'm just too old or of the wrong gender to fully appreciate what it's doing here. I just know I didn't like the novel. Alright, now on to spoilers, starting in 3, 2, 1. Originally my plan was to have separate spoiler reviews for my videos, but I don't like repeating myself, and given my disappointment with this particular book, I really didn't want to repeat myself. My one positive for this section of the review are the politics, and by extension, Cal. There is an idea here that I found quite interesting. Cal mentions that their allies wouldn't support them if they freed the Reds. I wanted more exploration of those broader racial ideas. Regardless of whether this is true, Cal believes it. He is doing what he feels is right, what will cause the least death in the long run. A civil war while a country is already in a broader conflict? Yeah, probably gonna get everybody killed. Unfortunately, Mare recognizes none of this. She misses a lot of things, and I'm sure new facts will emerge that show some conspiracy on that front, but with the current information, Cal isn't the demon the story makes him out to be. In fact, he's way kinder than his environment should allow. His stepmother is a monster. Most of the people in the palace are equally bad. He's grown up in a world that despises Reds, and the Reds despise them. Even Maven's apparently a monster. Quite the 180 with Maven's character. There's no real lead into it. Outside of some earlier hints of jealousy, he's just suddenly evil. Maybe I should have realized something was amiss when Maven joined the Scarlet Guard. That felt quite abrupt. Of course, so did the moment Mare and Cal first kiss, since she seems to despise him and they have nothing in common. Given that, how was I supposed to know that Maven's new cause was the one thing that wasn't genuine? My biggest problem though, that was with how dumb and heartless I felt the characters were. They assassinate several political and military figures, including a diplomat, for what? To make a statement? To force a civil war? And why would none of those sent on the mission carry poison to kill themselves in case of capture, when they know the Queen can read their minds to root out the rest of their supporters? Heck, why would Farley go with them? Isn't she their leader? Then when Mare risks and essentially sacrifices the lives of Lucas, Julian, and Sarah to try to get Caloran, Farley, and some other guy out of prison, that drove me nuts. It was a stupid plan that was obviously going to point back to them. As if that weren't enough, when Lucas is about to be put to death for his unwitting role in that escape, Mare admits she'd sacrifice him again. The lives of 3 murderers are worth more to her than the lives of 3 innocents? Really? Unlike Farley and Caloran, who seem to be bloodthirsty simpletons who know the risks of their mission, Lucas, Julian, and Sarah actually seem to care about people. And except for maybe Julian, they had no idea Mare was gambling with their lives. Mare is way too callous for my liking. When she and Cal are framed for the king's death, she actually seems to enjoy killing the people picked to bring judgment on them. If Cal wasn't in trouble, she would have chased down and killed Evangeline. But, well, Evangeline managed to fend off her first lightning strikes with metal swords because the story needs Mare's rival to survive. Kind of a weird ability to give such a central antagonist, makes the villain escapes cliche stand out even more. Cal's former peers are equally callous. They don't question why Cal would assassinate his father when he's already the heir apparent. They don't even question the Queen, who practically screams evil and can control people. They just want blood. Anyway, that's all I've got. If you like this review, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and thanks for listening. Peace.